Alright, let's dive into the buzz around Google's Pixel 11 lineup, but trust me, this isn't your typical leak roundup. Personally, I think what makes this launch fascinating is how Google's trying to balance innovation with the reality of a Armageddon world. Yeah, I said it. Prices are creeping up, and it's not just about specs anymore, it's about what Google's really prioritizing in 2026. Let's break it down. First off, the Pixel Glow highlight thing. In my opinion, it's a clever move. That multicolored LED bar isn't just a gimmick, it's Google's way of saying, hey, we get it, you don't always want to stare at your screen. But here's the kicker, what many people don't realize is that this could be a subtle play to compete with Apple's notification system. If you take a step back and think about it, it's not just about lights, it's about reclaiming some of that phone-down mindfulness. Still, I'm curious if it'll feel more like a party trick or a genuine utility. Now, the specs. The base Pixel 11 losing its telephoto lens? Oof. From my perspective, that's a bold cut, especially when every other brand is doubling down on zoom. What this really suggests is that Google's betting big on AI-driven software to compensate. But here's the deeper question. Are they sacrificing hardware to keep costs relatively sane? Because let's be real, that $899 starting price is still a $100 jump from last year. What makes this really interesting is how Google's balancing act might backfire if users feel shortchanged. The Pro models, though, now that's where things get spicy. A 120x digital zoom? If that's true, it's a wild leap. One thing that immediately stands out is how Google's leaning into AI to push camera limits. But here's my hot take, 120x zoom feels like overkill. Personally, I think they're chasing a number just to flex on Samsung. What many people don't realize is that beyond 100x, you're mostly zooming into noise, not detail. It's a spec sheet flex, not a real-world win. And the Pixel 11 Pro Fold? That $1,899 price tag is a statement. In my opinion, Google's folding phones have always felt like experiments, not essentials. A detail I find fascinating is how they're still pushing this category despite foldable sales being meh. If you take a step back and think about it, this could be Google's way of saying, we're not just an Android factory, we're a luxury brand. But at $400 more than last year's model, it's a tough sell. Here's the bigger picture, Google's not just launching phones, they're launching a narrative. Trevor Noah hosting. Stephen Curry as a guest. It's a show, not a keynote. What this really suggests is that Google's leaning into entertainment to distract from the price hikes. Personally, I think it's a smart move, but it also feels like they're papering over cracks. Closing thought. The Pixel 11 lineup feels like Google's attempt to redefine flagship in a world where every phone looks the same. But with higher prices, questionable cuts, and a focus on gimmicks like highlight, I'm left wondering, are they innovating or just rearranging deck chairs? Let me know what you think. Is Google still the underdog, or are they starting to play the same game as everyone else?